In my adult life as an Army officer and subsequently negotiating international agreements on behalf of the United States, I've heard some truly stupid ideas. None of them were as stupid as the idea that we would invade Greenland. In this episode, I'll explore what I think the real issues are and some possible paths forward. Welcome back to the Ancient Art of Modern Warfare. I'm Chris Mayer, Colonel, U.S. Cavalry retired, and in this series I explain the enduring philosophy of war, as it was, as it is, and will continue to be regardless of advances in weaponry or politics. In this episode, I expect to upset about half of my small audience. I wanted to start the new year by looking at predictions about the future of warfare, but our seemingly irrational world keeps interrupting rational plans. I'm going to begin with some text from a memorandum by the U.S. Secretary of State. Quote, I spoke earnestly to the foreign minister on the danger which Greenland represented to the security of the United States. I said our interest, therefore, from all angles of security, was to ensure arrangements which would prevent the island from falling into hostile hands. I said he knew he would agree that the Danes by themselves could not ensure against this danger. This was not, however, Secretary Marco Rubio. It's a 1948 memorandum by Secretary George Marshall, who many think was the greatest Secretary of State, or Defense, in U.S. history. Since even before our entry into World War II, the United States recognized the importance of Greenland for hemispheric security. To that end, the United States tried to acquire Greenland several times. The idea that the United States would actually conduct a military invasion of Greenland to do that was ridiculous. I think the only people who seriously believe that President Trump would order such an invasion are predisposed to believe anything about the president as long as it conforms to their predisposition against him. For anyone who really watches what Trump has done and how he operates, it was clear that his mentioning military means was an opening position towards getting what he really wants. That said, his rhetoric implying the use of military force was, in my opinion, imprudent or worse. Although his recent statement in Davos saying that he would not take Greenland by force should put that idea to rest, I am certain that there are those who will, for their own purposes, continue to generate fear and anger by promoting the idea that President Trump continues to want to invade. That said, we have invaded Greenland before. This happened more than half a year before we entered World War II, and the Kingdom of Denmark only grudgingly accepted our presence ever since then. On the 9th of April 1941, Danish Ambassador Erik Kaufmann signed a treaty with Washington, giving the United States almost unlimited access to build military facilities in Greenland, and this agreement would remain valid as long as there were, quote, dangers to the American continent, unquote. This agreement was of doubtful legality as it was made without the knowledge of the king or approval by the Danish parliament. Denmark was, at that time, under German occupation, but it was officially neutral and recognized by the United States as such. In fact, the ambassador was fired by Copenhagen as soon as Kaufmann informed the Danish government of the agreement. Nonetheless, it gave us a legal pretext to invade Greenland and stay there. After the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945, the Danish parliament reinstated Kaufmann and unanimously ratified the 1941 agreement, although Parliament assumed that such, quote, dangers to the American continent, unquote, would be short-lived. And then came the Cold War. In April 1951, the United States and Denmark replaced the 1941 treaty with the Agreement on the Defense of Greenland. This confirmed Danish sovereignty, but allowed the U.S. complete control over 3 rather large so-called defense areas, with additional areas subject to future negotiations. The United States would be free to operate its bases as it saw fit. After that, the State Department saw no point to purchasing Greenland since the United States was already, as they said, permitted to do almost anything, literally, that we want to do in Greenland. This agreement was amended in 2004, recognizing the change in Greenland's status from being a Danish county to acquiring autonomous status. In the 2004 amendment, the United States agrees to, quote, consult with and inform the government of the Kingdom of Denmark, including the Home Rule government of Greenland, prior to the implementation of any significant changes to the United States military operations or facilities in Greenland, unquote. Consult and inform does not require or even imply that Danish agreement or permission. The point here is that we have no need to invade Greenland. We're already there, with the authority to do just about anything we want to do regarding the security of the United States. So what's the problem? I do not believe that Trump really wants Greenland. Not as an integral part of the United States of America, anyway. I think there are too many downsides to it. So then, what does President Trump really expect? Certainly, we are concerned about Russian and Chinese interference in the Western Hemisphere. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is concerned too. Military concerns are valid, but security concerns also include the mineral resources of Greenland. More on that in a bit. Denmark cannot defend Greenland. They can't even stop Russian malfeasance in the Baltic. On the other hand, we haven't done much about increasing our military presence and capabilities in Greenland either. Considering the rhetoric about defending the Arctic, I think that lack of action on our part is curious. Nonetheless, since the United States is, for all practical purposes, providing the only credible defense of Greenland, maybe that responsibility needs to come with authority, one way or another, and not just grudging acceptance. So, what are some possible ways to do that, other than invading? One possibility is to seek more formal binding treaties with the USA and Denmark regarding Greenland. These would establish U.S. authorities and responsibilities towards Greenland with, perhaps, economic development. Treaties like that take time to negotiate and even longer to ratify. And while that is happening, we must understand that one way or another, Greenland is on a short path to full independence from Denmark. That is a real concern. An independent Greenland would not automatically be in NATO. It would have to apply for NATO membership. It probably will, but that's not certain. All existing agreements or understandings regarding a U.S. presence in Greenland will need to be renegotiated with the new government. During this time, we may even have to evacuate our bases there. Now, these negotiations could take time, especially considering the environmental impact from our presence there to date. We will also need to compete with Russian and Chinese interests seeking to exploit Greenland as they have done in Africa and elsewhere. Now, this isn't just a matter of trading strategic natural resources to China. Wherever China expands its Belt and Road Initiative in the developing world, and a newly independent Greenland would start off as developing, it does so through what amounts to debt bondage. That may not be a critical concern for U.S. security when it is done in Africa. It's another matter entirely for our security when it's done in our hemisphere and just off of our continent. Another option might be that rather than pursuing a treaty with Denmark, we could work towards an independent Greenland with a compact of free association with the United States. Now, these compacts affirm the independence of a state, with the USA maintaining full authority and responsibility for that independent nation's security and defense. In return, the independent state receives U.S. government agency support, developmental aid, and special immigration rights for its citizens to live, work, and study in the USA, as well as other benefits. These compacts currently exist for the Federated States of Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, and Palau. I understand that some pro-independence groups in Greenland already propose this. But who knows what Trump really wants? His tactic seems to be to demand everything and then negotiate down to what he really wants, but only after insisting that he will not accept anything less than everything. This can be seen in his recent changes in tactics and proposals, and we can expect them to continue to change. But invading Greenland? That was never a serious option, and I'm amazed that some people would believe that it was. In closing, I should point out that we have acquired territory through purchase from Denmark before. To this day, if you visit the U.S. Virgin Islands, you will see many Danish flags, and I've seen some stores in Christiansted which offer services in Danish. I think it amazing that Denmark would sell us the Virgin Islands, but hold on to Greenland. Seriously, if you had the choice, which would you choose to sell or hold on to? In any case, the time to negotiate Greenland's future and its relationship to NATO, Canada, and the United States is now.